Who is Ed Balian?
Well, well, I'll let others judge the mix, but I'm pretty much a mixture of art and science.
Okay. I say
And
now.
as I said, I'll let other people judge the mix.
Well,
But my life has pretty much been a combination of art and science mixed together in all kinds of different ways.
yeah, because I know now you've written like what, 13 books? And you're also a
Yeah,
photographer
correct.
and a musician?
Yeah, all true. For better or worse.
Oh, okay. All
I,
right.
well, I've been very fortunate. I've had a lot of opportunities. Um, I'm, I've been a very hard worker, but I've had a lot of excellent opportunities that a lot of other people perhaps never had. I did try to make the best of the opportunities that came my way.
Well, let's talk about Bob Seger. Now, you're originally from Detroit, so there's maybe some sort of nostalgic, emotional attachment to this subject.
Oh, very much so. In fact, I would have never even attempted to write this biography. I've been born and raised in Detroit and come up through the music circles in Detroit in the late 60s. Bob and I shared the same attorney for over 40 years. So I was through the business in Detroit, starting from really the mid 1960s. I was very much in tune, no ended, with Bob's career from the very earliest days. We played a lot of the same places. I played with a lot of his bands and musicians. And really, when I look back on the project, there is no, I really could have written the book. It certainly would not have been of the quality I hope it is, uh, had I not come up through that same environment. Not kind of sort of similar to Bob, but identical to Bob's very earliest days.
So this is the first and only biography of Bob Seger. Why do you think this hasn't been done before?
Well, that's a great question, Kay. And there are a number of reasons for it. I'd say paramount would be back to Bob's innate personality. He's, to this day, a very private, extremely private person, particularly for a rock star, or even now I think we could call him a rock icon. Usually we see quite opposite behavior, flamboyant behavior, over the top. Bob is, as I discussed in the book, the complete opposite of all of these rock icon stereotypes. He really is. And sharing sharing his attorney for 40 years, that became more and more apparent to me as went by. To this day, he really, when he's out on tour, it's really atypical behavior for him. He's an extremely private person.
You are going to be in Decatur on February 13th at 6 o'clock to give this presentation. What can people expect when they come that night?
I like to do my presentations in a very interactive style, casual. I like to hear from them. A lot of people have their own Bob Seger stories. Many of the audiences ask some very interesting questions, most of which, almost all of which, I hope, are answered in the book, but not all the time, and make it a very fun and interactive session with the audiences. I start off by discussing my respect for the audience. They took the time and trouble to come out, and I think it's important that we have a good time with it. And I like it informative, but at the same time, a lot of fun. So your audiences could expect a very interactive, informal, at times hopeful, humorous kind of approach. And I'd love to interact with them and answer their questions. So I think also my enthusiasm for music, my own history with music, my own history with Bob in the Detroit area, watching his entire 50-year career, I like to think my enthusiasm will be contagious.
Oh, that's great. Now, okay, do we get to hear some Bob Seger music?
Yes, usually, and this sort of depends on the venue, and you and I can discuss this off camera if you like. But most of the time, I'll do some kind of internet, YouTube kind of thing. I'll show Bob at 3 different stages in his career across 3 different decades, and I'll discuss after we view as an audience. We view the YouTubes. We'll discuss the song that was shown. I'll discuss each song in each era one at a time. I usually will do this right after a short break, usually about anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes into my presentation. It gives me a chance to set up the YouTubes. So when we come back from the short break, we'll watch usually these 3 YouTubes one at a time, and we'll do some interactive discussion after each one. So it's kind of a fun thing. And the YouTubes I select really clearly show 3 different phases or eras, if you will, of Bob's career, through which he went through a lot of changes.